Hey guys, Novus here, and welcome back to From the Depths. So it's been a couple of days since I uploaded anything. I have been working on some vehicles, and that would be why. So last everyone would have seen would have been pretty sure the new destroyer upgrade with heavy barrels and yeah, much more armoring inside, encased it all. Yeah. Should be much tougher to break through now. Got extra armor at the back here. Still got the right amount of storage on board. All encased in the back here. And yeah, it's not bad, but it's definitely not what I've been working on. So yeah, needed more ships for the campaign. So I figured, you know what, let's make a couple. So this one, I believe, may have even already gone over in one of the episodes. I've still got one more to edit, but I have been working just constantly on the vehicles at the moment. So this one uses 2 turbines underneath, stores its power down here, well below the waterline, right underneath in the dead center. So it's not too easy to get to, I guess, but just a nice little spot to tuck some power away. 12 cannons aside from memory, and it's got, I believe should be 16 torpedoes to a side, or 8, yeah, so 16 torpedoes to a side, so a total of 32 torpedoes, and then I believe it's got like 36 missiles, I believe it was, something like that, tucked into these 2 areas here, and they'll actually open up when it gets into combat, and yeah, it'll do its thing. Also got a radar on the top, and most of these are still a work in progress. Like, they're gonna need a lot more work before they're complete, but getting there. And full laser defenses on this as well. Lasers are here, so scattered around the base of this, and over here. On to the next ship though. So this is a funky little design I came up with. It was just an attempt at advanced cannons on like a decent sized ship. And they do pretty good. Yeah. So basically what's happening with these, it's pretty damn powerful, to be honest. It's got a hollow point nose, and then explosives are set behind that. I ended up having to still chuck in an inertial fuse just to make sure that it was detonating on shields and so forth. And the base bleeder. These have a range of, I believe, 9,600, I believe. I can double check that. Oh no, wait, no, I think they've gone down slightly with the last upgrade I put in. So we've got our AI housed in here, surrounded by a bit of insulation, just to make sure any electricity trying to travel through the floor to it is going to have a bad time. Yeah, we've got target prioritization, we've got all that stuff in here, we've got a whole bunch of detection. Then we've got turrets housed in their own individual rooms, air gaps, doors, water pump. Did I just see a hole? No, I didn't see a hole. I was just looking through the wall. Alright, so it's a bit of a tight gap back here then. Yeah, so we got water pumps in each room. It still needs painting internally. Air gaps go for each and every room. And it's perfectly identical. The build was also not meant to be... Hang on. I'm not sure this is the right gun. A moment. Yeah, no, this is the right one. Okay, that's fine. I did extend it out. Okay, so it's actually odd numbers of blocks wide. Sort of dealio. Reason for this is on 2 sides of this, I've ended up having to actually move the innermost. So this was perfectly identical the entire way around, essentially. and we just had the autoloaders here. These two sides had to be cut out so as to move the gauge increases. Had to move 3 of them down into here. Well, 2, but I also had to cut 1 out. Yeah. Reason being was, initially I had put it up on the top here. Sorry if my voice is a bit, how's it going? By the way, it's just been coming out with something. Yeah, so I had 2 gauge increases, one right there and one right there in all of this. Big mistake. Do not put gauge increases up the top here. So yeah, I've been working with them a bit and learning what I'm doing. Yeah, you cannot let yourself put any gauge increases up near the top or anywhere near the sides of the hull here or anything like that. The reason being is you can lose ammo racks, you can lose like gauge cooldowns, so cooling vents. What you cannot afford to lose is a single gauge increase, because the second you do with an APS, like with an advanced cannon, it's going to reload. What's going to happen is all of your current shells are going to be cleared. And yeah, if you're building like a fairly solid gun that holds a whole bunch of shells in it, this one holds 136 shells and it can fire fairly quickly. It'll kind of just stop. Like, you're not firing anymore. So it's not great when that happens. But yeah, so she fires volleys of 8 from each cannon. And so it's 2 shots at a time, 4 volleys, which of course means, yeah, solid amount of shots. It's 8 from each volley thanks to the 4 guns. So it's a fairly alright amount of sustained firepower, and it doesn't take a long time before it can fire again between the volleys. It does, however, end up, the build's not perfect, so it ends up kinda out of sync, and ends up kinda just with a continuous firing situation going on. Should. Yeah. Just kinda ends up doing strange stuff like that, and then it'll eventually just stop firing one after another really quickly. Like the gap kind of closes between the volleys a bit, but at the same time the shots themselves start spacing out from each other. So how's it going? But you know what? It works. She fires plenty of shots. If anyone knows anything that I've stuffed up with that, though, please let me know. I'm still trying to learn how to do those. So, maybe just a quick design for this vehicle, and then at the back here we've got some ammo stored away. We've got insulation to protect it. I just realized my fan is on. So, yeah, all encased in there. This isn't so great. I mean, this is where I put the fuel, and I forgot about it, and I still not really found anywhere else to put it. It's just kind of hidden in this wall here. I haven't had problems with that though, yet, strangely. It's almost like it's really heavily armored around this area. So, alright. Over here we've got 2 little engines. They're basically... This is a design I came up with for one of my other vehicles. It was a flyer. Oh wait, no, it's just balancing itself. I was like, what are those engines? Like, oh yeah, that's right. It's kind of trying to keep itself afloat. Hang on. Yeah, no, it's utilizing all. And then, yeah, we got roll, stabilization and stuff. Anyway, I'll get to that in a sec though. What I wanted to look at, yeah. So, this was being used in a flyer. It's basically just kind of a quick engine design I came up with on the spot. And it gives out a ridiculous amount of power. So, fuel engine into a crankshaft into an adapter. No, sorry. 3 crankshafts forward, adapter each side. Then cylinders just go straight on the top, and that way what you do is you slap your carbies on your four corners and in the center there. And what happens is you end up with 3 connections for the carburetors on every single cylinder. You've used 5 carbies, but at the same time, because you've got 3 on each one and you've got 4 of those, means that you've got 12 total carby connections out of 5 carbies. So it's massive value. I just sort of chucked some superchargers on the top. Could probably even put them on the bottom and the sides as well, and just kind of go ham with them. But this is the only spot I found that was actually really efficient in terms of the superchargers. There's plenty of other designs for engines that'd probably be really good. Could also even slap another carby in here and then get 2 connections. But yeah, actually kind of thinking, nah, because that would increase the heat of this cylinder over all the others. So at the moment they're perfectly symmetrical. Now outside of this bit here, which means it probably should really be a gap, which would take away the efficiency of these superchargers, but at the same time it would mean you can have an individual connection for each of these cylinders, because it seems to be a problem where it's not getting enough cooling. Now I even split these off into 2 separate pipes. Now this runs up into our little command deck area. Got 2 raw resource containers here, the reason being if the resource containers elsewhere that are stashed end up getting broken, it yeah, we can still fix stuff up. We've got a couple of automated control blocks just doing balancing and stuff like that. This was a window. It makes me really sad that it's had to go, but I'll just put it back for a moment. What we did have, before I had to cram these in. Oop, no. That's right. So what it did have, but it turned out this had a tendency to result in my face getting blown off, so kind of had to deal with that. Whoop, the way around. So, what was going down? No, these work on. Yep. Alright. Please throw it, come on. Sorry guys. Yeah, chuck that there. Chuck. Where's it real quick? Alright. So the idea was, I don't know what I've checked. Oh no, wait, it's because I brought the roof down. Never mind. Okay, so what was going on was I had basically a window here, and it actually wasn't quite as open as this. I think it actually went 1 block further in, but yeah, I kind of just had corner pieces and so forth, and a big old window here that sort of extended out. And you can actually see completely out over the deck of the ship. But yeah, not really able to be done anymore. So at the moment, Jesus, virus is gonna kill me. It's not too expensive. Heavily armored turrets, but 87,000. So it's nowhere near as expensive as it very easily could have been. It's got repair belts along there. It's got a couple repair belts along there, then underneath, tucked a set under each of those arms. These are all set up with boosters, and what happens is they boost out to the side, and they'll actually also boost, so they boost out to each side of the vehicle and boost down. And what happens, they kind of drop down and under and around and then jump back up over here. Because originally it was like kind of, how's it going getting any missiles launching from here, because they kind of just hit this, or they phase into the side of the ship somehow and end up inside the ship. It's like, wait, how'd you get in there? So yeah, those fire like so. Now it needs more work, because I found if you're on like full steam ahead and then you start turning and you fire that, sometimes it can still have like a weird detonation. I'm not putting a safety fuse in. That cuts down on the payload. And no, it'll be fine. I can work it out. So, these arms weren't on the sides. Before I painted it, actually kind of looked like it just, like, while it was leaving the shipyard, it just kind of took a chunk of the shipyard with it or something. But, yeah, just these big panels here are steel. They're essentially just an extra layer of armor with a huge amount of spacing in between. And the reason for this is torpedoes, as well as heavy cannons like cram cannons and stuff like that. Advanced cannons, I mean, it'll take a beating for a while, and then eventually they'll break through and they'll start hitting the hull. But the main reason is to take on like an entire volley of cram cannons, and it's worked. It's happened quite a few times, even with like a Constitution, something like that, really heavy. It yeah, just kind of absorbs it, and the main hull itself, you know, stays safe for a single volley in that area. It's nothing special. It didn't cost too much resources to add on, just because of how spaced out it is and how little there really is there in comparison to the size of the hull of a vehicle, you know, those actual dimensions. It's a pretty hefty one. The other thing is, it's a little hard to tell until you get into exactly the right spots, but she's actually fully insulated. So what I've done is these arms that reach down, every single one of them has just in that spot. Now the blocks next to them is steel on either side, but it just uses, we're still not using all the faces of it, but they're basically being used as sort of insulation areas to branch off to those arms. Now, that would be pointless if it wasn't, oh god, identical down here. Now these are the arms that reach down and connect it to the hull here, but at the same time, what happens is, it's actually connected up to a little lip that I put onto the base, and the reason for that lip, you should be able to see it now, a little clearer, but yeah, it's basically actually just a little lip that I put onto the sides, and these are like this on either side, and they just hang off from the bottom of the hull. The reason for this is torpedoes. Torpedoes hurt. Now, been looking at how to try and defend against them. The thing I kind of forgot about the whole time I was trying to figure out how to was, that's right, lasers. Lasers will still zap things in the water, but I was trying out a whole bunch of different defenses against them, and I was like, this is hard. So, I was even considering setting up some kind of advanced cannon that'll actually... I didn't paint that. Whoops. Yeah, I was thinking of setting up an advanced cannon that'd actually shoot at torpedoes and try and dack them out of the water. That'd probably help a lot. Ooh, vicious looking ram thing on the front. Yeah, we got detection here at the front. Then we got detection at the back as well. We've got detection on each of the turrets. We're using a gimbaled visual camera and a standard visual camera because they got the maximum detection range I found, and yeah, even things that are way off in the distance will still get like a solid reading on it. Then at the same time we've got rangefinders at the back here, and they're the same on each turret, so that way if one turret gets, you know, severely hammered or the front end gets hammered or whatever, she's still detecting. And it'll just feed it through to the other cannons and they can hopefully still keep firing. We've got more detection at the back here. It's a bit of an ugly setup, but I needed something at the top at the back here. It wasn't as bad when I just had it pointing out the back, but probably should set that up as well. It was just when I was trying to set up the anti-torpedo defenses and stuff, I was trying to check and see if utilize those. So then we've got up the front here, all the way up the front. We've got some air gaps in here and just stuff controlling like the air pumps and so forth. Nothing fancy. We've got more raw resources stored up here, and this is the shell we're using. It's not perfect, but it does the job. So 250. There we are. So it's actually not perfect. It needs, to be perfectly honest, it could use another ammo customizer on the end, but I believe I actually ended up cutting that off to speed up its firing to just the right point that I wanted, I believe. So I don't know, but I've mucked around a lot with that shell. It seems to work pretty well. Then we've got the AI down here. Already went at that. And up here is where all our ammo makers are, sitting precariously in the nose, but they're all separated by bits of armor. Just sort of pocketed in here in layers. Sort of dealio. It's weird, but it works. Yeah. So that's this vehicle. Now moving on to the next vehicle. Is it that direction? Things have been moving. Dang it. Alright, so moving on to, I think we'll go on to this one. So this is the wooden torpedo destroyer. So yeah, we can still totally get around throughout the entire thing. It's just had a little tiny bit more work done to it, which allows for it to now take on the Judgment, I believe it was, from the white players, without taking a hit. And it just involves a bit of mucking about. Geez, do I not have an air pump down here? I believe I don't have an air pump down here. One moment, let me hit water. Watch the whole thing flip on its side now. Nope, we're just really perfectly in line with the waterline. Well, that's fine, because now we have more viewing windows than we did before. We've got one here, we've got one here, and we've got one over here. Then this leads to the back of the ship. There's a block of armor missing. And yeah, over to these old engines again, and yeah. So, the reason we don't have viewing rooms over on this side, also it's totally not painted, so don't mind that. The reason we only have one set of viewing windows now, and the one thing we're still missing down here is, we could probably put it about there. We now have 40 torpedoes. The cool part, there we are, 15,000 fuel. So these things, I'm probably not going to let them do the whole run here, because, yeah, it takes a long time. These things will run for almost 10 Ks. So it cuts out its thrust at about 9,000, 9,050-ish, but it'll still keep skimming forwards until it hits like 9,500 and basically runs out just after that. Yeah, they go hard. Now, as long as the enemy's heading towards you, it means you can start firing your torpedoes once they're at like 11, 12k. So that's why she has a giant radar on the top. Which is why she's tipping over even more. Yeah, so it's still going to need a bunch of work to get it fixed up, and the radar, sadly, even with this giant radar, is still only giving me about half the strength I need. So I'm going to have to work more on it as well. And it's still like, yeah, nowhere near finished. It was just basically meant to be sort of a check and see how big it's going to need to be, and probably apparently roughly twice that size to be able to get 1.5 squares on the map. But if it can do so, it can fire that far. And at that point, it can take down a judgment without a problem. So yeah, that's this one. Now, actually save that one for last. Even though it keeps trying to edge its way in there. Alright. Here we have a new type of fighter. Now, just kind of made it spur of the moment last night. Stayed up all night making it, to be honest. It's terrible, but it works. So we have a minigun on the front here. Holds 210 shells at a time, 100mm gauge. The shells are perfectly sized for the racks, from what I remember. I believe. And these are the shells. They're essentially identical to the shells that we were using in the larger ship. And these ones, for what we are using, damn it, it's going to go up by 2. Right. There we go. So, what we're using here, it's exactly the right size for the rack. We've got 965 meter range, so it's not very long range. We've got full recoil absorption, so that's pretty much fine. Fairly quick to pass to the ammo clip, and the reload time from the clip isn't too bad. 415 explosive damage, 326 kinetic damage. They are hollow points, so they will totally mess up small ships. Smaller planes and stuff like that. And this is the gun running down here. What I might do is shrink the whole thing down a bit, just to make it a bit easier to see what's where. So yeah, we've got our ammo clips, input feeders, ammo intakes, all that stuff. Like, it's all running down there. Recoil absorber running straight down the back here. Tucked in fairly nicely. It wasn't until recently that I knew you could actually run the autoloaders off of the gauge increases, and that's why I'm suddenly like, ooh, okay, I'll muck around with advanced cannons a bit more now. Because otherwise it's a pain using the standard connectors and then trying to find a way to put the gauge increase somewhere, and it's just, yeah, it's usually messy otherwise. So if anyone hasn't been doing that, yeah, you can totally run your autoloaders off of your gauge increases. You can run your recoil absorbers. Basically anything you want to run on a gun can actually just be run off with the recoil, like the gauge increases. And it doesn't just have to be the gauge increases, it's also the cooling vents. You can run the cooling vents in, then once you're as far in as possible with the cooling vents, and you've only got enough room left for the number of gauge increases you want, that's when you crank them in at the back. Yeah, just sort of protects them because they're vital, so you don't unload your gun. Then we've got, yeah, it's got a bit of an accuracy on it. It's not the most accurate, but there's that one cool thing. And that is, it's actually got a little window. We got a cockpit. So yeah, you can actually see in. It's got the radar on the front here. Let's just quickly connect it up. Yeah, it's kind of it's a nice looking ship. It's got the ability to yaw and roll and all that good stuff. It's just not that quick. Now, it's because I'd need to upsize this actual main hull carriage thing 2 blocks out on each side, and I could take it from 1 large thruster poking through here to 5, and it would be 1 there, I believe. It would be 1 there, yeah, 1 there, and 1 on each of those corners, so there we go. That's where it would line up with, and those would be hulls that would be running out 4 more thrusters. It would give us 5 times the amount of thrust, and it's only going to cost 2 more blocks around, but at the same time it's yeah, I just really liked this shape and the size this came out. It was just kind of what I was quickly trying to set up while I was dead tired and randomly building this. It does have the ability to utilize thrusters at the front there, try and pitch up and down. It's also got the new little, well, not new now, but still new to me, aero elevators. So sitting on the back, we've got flares on the sides here. That's unpainted. Whoops. Yeah, munition detectors there. We should have munition detectors there. Bunch of thrusters. We got 2 ion thrusters as well, which is meant to be so it does get space and kind of get itself back down technically. Electric power is hiding in there. And ammo storage back here. Sorry, not ammo. Material storage back here. Then we've got an air gap before we've got the ammo. 2 blocks. I thought that would be safe, and it'd be like, yeah, it's fine. Ammo will only reach 1 block when it detonates, as far as I was aware. Ooh. Kind of blows up this first layer of small ones, and it'll damage the crap out of that one, but meh. We still keep most of our resources there so we can repair. Ammo makers with a armor gap in between them. Then we've got our AI, and there's the gun. We have 4 block long torpedoes. Missiles. And we've got 4 3 block long missiles as well. They're all set up to be short range and they won't fire until they get into range. So this thing's meant to be like a close-up dogfighter. Looks a bit weird for a close-up dogfighter. I mean, it's a bit big and it's a bit wide and stuff. Looks more like a stealth bomber or something. That's because I just sort of started building the hull and then I couldn't sort of help myself. I just had to make this first before actually turning it into the dogfighter, I guess. It's just, yeah, there was something about the way the ship was coming together. It looked really cool. So it's like, you know what, I'll finish this off and then I'll kind of cut it down into the other ship because it's not going to be much work to do that. And I still get a copy of this and just, yeah, it's kind of cool. Needs work though. A lot of work. Most of that work has been done to this one. So this is our new fighter. Now it doesn't necessarily 100% replace our old fighter. I mean, it still has the same firepower. And while it has the same firepower, it has the same firepower for not too far off the same cost. And it runs completely electric. So, this is sort of the proper dogfighting version. As you can see, we can actually get in and out of the vehicle manually. We don't have to sort of phase in through the walls or anything. We've actually got a proper opening and closing cockpit. See that in a sec. Got our minigun down here still. Got a bit of lighting put on it just to sort of make it look a bit cooler. Bunch of thrust. Still got these little wing things here. We got a bit more thrust at the back here because we replaced the ion thrusters. Yeah. We got munition detection there, there, and there. Now, this is bugging me because these ones aren't working. Although, I don't know if it's the AI, I don't know what it is. I've got to work with it a bunch, but it's kind of just running into shots. It won't dodge anything that comes at it, so don't know, need to work on it. But, still got the 4 missiles, got a 4 blocks each. Got an EMP warhead into each of them as well now. The Gatling gun at the front, still running an identical Gatling gun setup. We have less batteries in it. I believe the same number of RTGs though. If not, we've actually had to step them up a bit, I believe. Because we weren't running enough power. I had to muck around a bunch with that, try and get the power balanced. Yeah, it's pretty much the same design for the most part, just cut right down. Now it's a pretty hefty difference. don't know if it's too visible. I've put more storage back here as well. You don't know if it's too noticeable moving this vehicle a minute ago, but it had a top speed 48. Now it can kind of climb up to 50, but that's its top speed. That's maneuverable. It's just, yeah, not quick enough. Whereas, hop out of that, so you just can't get back in. But this one, now I did still want to do the other version with the like 5 main thrusters. That'd be nuts. Still have little thrusters scattered in between and so forth. It's just maximizing this, like the surface area for thrust, and yeah, it's just, we should be able to get a damn quick fighter out of that. This thing goes a little bit quicker, also is capable of nosing up like that manually, but she gets up to, it was going at 60 meters per second, it's now moving at 57. I did do a bunch more work with it last night. I don't know if I probably added to the weight a slight bit at some point without noticing. It was 61 last night. Actually, I think I got up to 65. Oh wait, that's right. When I put in the missile gantries, I lost a little bit of speed. When I added in the flares at the back here instead of in the wings, she lost a tiny bit of thrust then. But it flies fairly damn well. Like the empty body flew much better, I'll say, you know, without all the weapons crammed into it and all the rest of it. That one, if you just took your hands away from the keyboard like this, it would have just flown dead straight. I mean, there was no change in the angle of the nose whatsoever when it flew. It was just a dream to fly. This one, however, you gotta do a little bit of adjusting here and there. But for the most part, it's not too bad. So, might quickly maybe take this thing into a fight and show it off. Let's just summon in something fairly big but not too spammy to test this on, because I will say, you know, it's a nice looking fighter. It's got some firepower, but it's got some problems for getting hit. can actually like push her under the water. The stabilizing is preventing that at the moment. However, you can still jump out of the water. Which means you can genuinely jump torpedoes. I've jumped quite a few. Also kind of ducked shots back when it was able to actually drop itself into the water. It was pretty entertaining to watch. This ship sort of drops down into the water, duck a bunch of shots, and then sort of jumps up and out. The only issue it has there is occasionally, this might be one block too tall for the guns, because they can occasionally hit it. But it's simply because the barrels haven't been extended one more block so they can reach past, or... I mean, if I cut that out, like off the top, it'll cut down the amount of coverage on the side of the ship tremendously, because they're only very small panels, but that small angle and that small piece of metal kind of just gives it a tremendous amount of protection. So, yeah, I don't know. Kind of thinking I might hang on to that at that height and just put one more end onto the barrel, but they're longer than they should be for the burn time anyway, by like double. They just need that bit of extra accuracy. So yeah, that is one of our new ships that we'll be able to bring in, one of our new fighters. And yeah, I might have to do like a separate showcase for the other vehicles, especially the destroyer. It's going to need actually sitting down and doing a couple of runs of it, watching its torpedoes and stuff, because it literally takes, I think, like 2 minutes before it'll actually reach its target with the torpedoes. So once that starts, then it starts hitting the shots over and over again, so I'll have to jump cut to that and sort of show you guys some of that. But yeah, for now, it's a fairly long episode. It's just sort of to keep you guys updated on what's happening and show off a couple of the builds, and yeah, let you know we're still totally going to be making progress in the campaign. I just really wanted to get a few more designs ready to go and a few more interesting, cool things happening. So yeah, that's it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and yeah, have a good one, guys.